In today's episode, I will be ranking all of the different types of Minecraft villagers from best to worst. So let's get right into it. So first up we have the Toolsmith, which is an alright villager at best. It's very good, but with the new update, I guess the new update didn't do that much bad. So I guess it's an S tier still, but the new update, they might have a new snapshot, which will probably eventually nerf the Toolsmith, because diamond tools are very overpowered. And then we have, this is the Stonemason. So the Stonemason gives terracottas and quartz. So I'd put him in A, and he's good for building, gives bricks and a bunch of cool and important resources, but he's not nearly as good because diamond armor is a lot better. The leather worker is next up, and I think he might actually be a C tier probably, because the best thing he probably sells is a saddle, and saddles, oh, not that good. Once you have a few, you don't need that much more. Saddles aren't that useful, and leather trade is not very good, so I'd put him in C tier. And also, his workstation, a cauldron. A cauldron's very useless in most scenarios, but a cauldron is so expensive for this dumb villager, which makes him even worse. Next up we have the cartographer. So the cartographer sells some pretty good stuff. Like you could find woodland mansions and ocean monuments, so I'd put it in A tier. And you could also, with the new update, you could find villagers too, but one of the better trades is also that the loom item thing, that the banner pattern. So he sells a globe banner pattern that is exclusive to him only, but the only problem with it is you only don't need that many banner patterns. So he would be an A tier. And next up we have the librarian. He's an easy S tier. Even with the nerfs that might come out, he's still goated. He will be less good, a lot less good, but this is very, very goated villager. He could get you mending, could get you almost any, at this point in time you could get any enchantment book in the game other than Swift Sneak and the Soul Speed. So this is a goated villager, probably the best villager in the game. Then we have the Fletcher. Well, the Fletcher, he's good because you could get those stick trade, and he could get you very easy emeralds early game, and also he could get you tipped arrows, which are very useful too, because tipped arrows are like for curing villagers. You could use tipped arrows, and he's very useful for that. Next up we have, this is the farmer. So the farmer is a good villager, so I'd put him in A tier too, because he's good, because you could get golden carrots for decently cheap. You could trade the pumpkin melon trade, which is absolutely goated. It's so good, such the greatest trade almost, to get emeralds, so I'd put him A tier. The weaponsmith is, he is an S tier, I guess, but the thing with the weaponsmith is he is a villager that sells only axes and swords every time, guarantee axe and sword, and he's not very good because even though it is a guarantee, the toolsmith could also sell a diamond axe, which is kind of annoying. And next up we have the nitwit. The nitwit is a bottom D tier villager. That villager that you probably want, just saying, terrible villager. Worst villager in the game, no questions asked. There's just like this D tier, it's just for him, because he's so bad, this villager. Can't get a profession, he's lazy, sleeps in, and he just takes up a bed for no reason and does nothing. So useless. Next up we have the wool guy, the shepherd. The shepherd is a C tier. Probably the most useless villager in the game. Sell you wool. Wool I could be, but not that good. Like, he's very pricey. He's a bad villager in general, just bad. C tier. And the butcher is a B tier, I would say. He sells some good things like meats, but you rather just get golden carrots from the farmer. And the butcher is the best trade he probably sells is the last two trades, which is the sweet berry trade. So if you have a bunch of sweet berries, you could sell to him. And also dry kelp blocks could be good. But with the nerf of zombifying villagers, you don't stack anymore. He's less good. He's just not nearly as good as he was before, because you would be able to get him to 1 emerald for the melon and the dried kelp blocks, which would be good, but you know, things change. The cleric is probably also actually I can't put him in S tier. I'd put him at top A, almost in S tier. You could do the rotten flesh trade, which is good, the lapis and the redstone, which are two very useful blocks or items. Well, lapis less so, but still. And you could also get ender pearls. Ender pearls very useful, even though you could get a massive farm with ender pearls, but it's just a cheap passive way to get ender pearls without going to the nether or the end. And next up we have the armor. Yeah, the armor. So the armor is probably the best out of the three here, because he sells diamond armor, which is very valuable. Diamond armor for like 20 emeralds, but with one zombification, you could go to 1 emerald. And these villagers are so goated that they had to be nerfed. Like these two villagers were being nerfed in the new snapshot. They're so overpowered, and like people have like 20 librarians in there and a few armors in a trading hall. And finally, or actually not finally, we have the fisherman. The fisherman is, I guess he's a B tier like these two guys. He's not that good, but campfires is probably one of the most useful things he can sell. But he could also buy string, so in Java, string duper could be useful. And that's probably, I guess he buys fish. If you fish a lot, or if you have a massive fish farm with those things that have bubble columns or the magma columns, you could get a bunch of fish and use this guy. But finally, we actually have the non-villager profession, which you'd be a C tier, because I'd put him in B tier, because he has he could be any villager. And he could be any villager other than Nitwit in this whole place, and any of these villagers. So you could give him a job like a librarian job, and he'd be the best villager in the game. So here's the S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and finally the D tier. And thanks for watching. Don't forget Discord link in the description.